Greetings 2020ers, this is Professor Kaufman and welcome to the course. This video will survey some of the mechanics that are associated with the course and give you a high-level overview of what to expect and how to behave in a lot of settings. I have a deck of slides that I will post that's going to be linked from our Canvas site due to go live shortly after I complete this video. And I'll turn over to those slides now so that we can follow along and so that I don't forget anything. If you're joining the course late and watching this video to get oriented, make sure to attend a course meeting as soon as possible. Probably the earliest lecture, hopefully on Wednesday, the first lecture itself, or Friday. And there'll be a few pieces of information that I'll want you to hand to me on a piece of paper. Name, email address, student ID number so that we can issue a permission number in the event I deem it worthy. Which lecture and lab you want to register for, and a few sentences about why you can't make it to any of the courses or sections that have open space in them. We have somewhat limited space, but probably enough slots to accommodate anyone who wants to be part of the course, so feel free to approach me about that. As for the course itself, here's a quick survey of all the parts of it that you may be interested in. If in doubt, of course, visit our Canvas homepage, and I'll show you what that looks like momentarily. Our lectures are going to be in Anderson Hall, way across the West Bank, in 210 for the 125 meeting and 310 for the 335 meeting. They meet 3 times a week. Just make sure to allot enough time to walk across that long, cold winter bridge. And I understand some of you may have to hustle over there as your lab meetings end right before the lecture meets. During the lecture, we'll have discussions. I'll have some exercises for all of you to do, and if you choose to engage in those exercises, you can earn some more bonus engagement points. I'll have a few words to say about that more later. But in the event that you're ill or can otherwise not attend, make sure you know that lectures are recorded, and I'll post those to Canvas usually within a day to 2 days after completing the lecture. Finally, you're required to be in person for the 3 exams and the final exam associated with the course. This is an in-person meeting course, and so if you're looking to take this completely remotely, look again, as that's not going to work out in the end. You'll have a number of out-of-class assignments, and all of these, for the most part, will be submitted through Gradescope, which is a grading system that the university subscribes to now. You'll have a set of weekly homeworks and also weekly lab exercises. These are 2 separate things. Homeworks are pretty easy. Do them on your own time. They involve taking a short quiz on Gradescope. Lab exercises have a meeting associated with them, although completing the lab doesn't necessarily involve attending the lab. But we'll usually have some code and some quiz questions to answer that are submitted. These you can collaborate on freely, and I'll say a few words more on that later. In contrast to that, we'll have 5 larger programming assignments, and these are larger work. They are individual work, and so collaboration has some more guidelines on it. Generally, this should be individual work, although you're not forbidden from talking to one another about things at a high level. I mentioned a moment ago engagement points. Every time you complete a lab, you'll get an engagement point. Each engagement point is worth 1% of your overall grade, up to a 10% total. However, if you submit projects late, for instance, a couple days late, that will cost you a couple engagement points. That late policy is laid out in some more detail, along with the rules associated with if you get more than 10 engagement points, what happens. Some bonus credit there for you. So have a look at those in the syllabus, which contains full details on that stuff. Generally, you can submit these projects up to 2 days late. That's the cost of engagement points. Weekly homeworks and lab exercise, however, you cannot submit late, so make sure to be on time for that. Labs all meet on Wednesdays, and as you would show up, you'll basically be guaranteed through TA instruction and assistance that you can finish the lab in close to, if not always, the lab period of 15 minutes. However, if you can't make it to lab or aren't able to finish in that time, know that you'll have the full week to complete lab work like that and earn your engagement point. We'll have a series of office hours that are going to be posted to our Canvas site. Those are a combination of both in-person and online office hours. We'll favor the Discord communication tool for online office hours. It's great for things like moving people into private rooms more efficiently than Zoom is. Great for having a shared queue with several TAs if they're on duty online I can share. And you'll just want to be cognizant then as you want to partake in office hours of locations for those things. Some of them being in person, you won't want to be on Discord at that point, but if you want to attend an online office hours, then you can do that from anywhere. Finally, as you would have questions but no one's on duty for office hours, then Piazza, our discussion board, is going to be an asynchronous spot that you can ask and receive answers. TAs are on duty every day of the week at various times to assist in that. The nice part about Piazza, too, is that if you see another student asking a question and are pretty sure you know how to answer it, you can chime in with the student answer for that. And those that partake in this will receive bonus engagement points according to the same scheme that I use in lecture. So I'll say a few more words for that probably in the first lecture on it, so students stay tuned there. A quick note to those who are following along, we will have lab meetings during the first week of the semester, and this is a little bit unusual because labs meet before the lecture periods do. That's totally fine because Lab 1 is specifically designed just to make sure you're set up and ready to start programming from this course. Generally, the flow of labs will be that staff will give a short introduction, surveying a few of the finer points of the lab, getting folks started on things, and then staff will give students time to work either individually or in groups because collaboration on labs is totally fine, and you're free to then flag down any of the staff members, undergraduate TAs, and graduate TAs for assistance as you would need help with it. You get credit for the lab by submitting completed work to Gradescope. So if you worked in a group of 2 or 3 or even up to 5, then only one group member needs to submit that and everyone can get credit for it if that group member is smart enough to add them as members to the submission. If you have trouble with that, make sure to look carefully at the Lab 1 instructions, which I'll look at in just a second, and ask for help during the lab if you're feeling lost. We really have a great group of TAs, which I've met last week, and who are very interested in assisting you in learning. Get to know them, get to love them, and they'll do you right by you. If you're not looking necessarily to get started right away on Lab 1, then you can also look at just how to access the Unix environments that you'll be doing in terms of programming and so forth. And I guess I should update this date. It should be September 7th, not September 8th. On Wednesday, those first labs will meet. Yeah, I talked a little bit about Discord here. If you plan not to take part in online office hours, then don't bother with Discord. However, if you are going to make use of online office hours because you're off campus or anticipate there are going to be some times that I can't necessarily make it in person, then you'll want to set up that software and get acquainted with it. At the top of our Canvas page is a little link in order to access our guild, as it's called. I think Discord also uses the word servers, but it's basically an area that's associated with this class. It has a bunch of virtual rooms for audio discussion, text channels where you can type things in, and Discord also allows you to do things like share your screen and respond to one another as you work. In-person office hours and online office hours will feature some sort of a queue, and online that'll be a little text channel. You can take a demo of that in a second. I'll attach it to this video to demonstrate. But let's actually start having a look at some of that website stuff, just so folks aren't completely disoriented. This is our Canvas site, and you can see it's unpublished right now, but I'll publish it shortly. And that will cause it to show up on your, let's see, what is it? Dashboard is what they call it, with a little placard and so forth. The basic course information is all here, including links to some important stuff that I'll point out. The course schedule is where a lot of you are going to spend time. This link will access that Discord invite to get you onto our server or guild, as it were, so you can start interacting with other students in the class or with TAs as you want help. There's a link to Gradescope, which will allow you to submit things, but that's also over here on the left-hand side, as it is with Piazza. There's a link to our syllabus, which is a rather lengthy document. I mean, every semester I look over at this thing, and you can see, okay, there's a lot of little bullet points over here in terms of the outline, and printing this thing would take something like, I don't know, 11 pages of paper and so forth. You don't need to be acquainted with all of the details on this right now. However, it is good as a reference to sort of search for things. For instance, if you're interested in, I think I need to submit this project late, you might just do a text search for late submission and find, there's actually a section that's devoted entirely to that. If you're interested in, bonus credit, then you might find a few link spots in here with reference to that, including if you earn more engagement points than are strictly necessary for full credits, as in do all 14 labs, then you're able to earn some additional overall bonus credit through that mechanism. So have a read or do some reading as well on your own time. It's a good way to fall asleep at night if you're so inclined. Beneath the links are a list of the staff members, including when they plan to hold office hours. Some of the staff members haven't yet selected their office hours, so these blanks will fill in over time, as well as which days and folks are on duty for Piazza and what the location of those office hours are. You can see some of them are in Keller rooms, others are in the atrium, and others are online, so they're on Discord. There's a schedule of office hours and other course meetings down here. So you can see, for instance, down here, starting at 2:30, June has his office hours in Keller 246. Or if you want to come see me tomorrow, then you can come see me in Separate 327 from 3 to 4 p.m. On the other hand, early in the morning, I have another round of office hours, but that's on Discord, so you'll want to log out there for it. You can see some of the lab meetings as well as other course meetings, such as the lectures that happen then. For instance, this 335 lecture over at Anderson. Those meetings are additionally listed down here along with the personnel for each of them. Generally, we have a GTA and several undergraduate TAs associated with each of the labs. And then beneath that are some additional resources. For instance, if you need help setting up Discord, some information on it here. You may want to examine our course textbook. It has a website over here. Certainly get a copy of it. I'll have a few words to say about that in our first lecture as well. And if you want some general C programming resources, there's some of those listed down here. All of these are free. None of them are necessarily super comprehensive, but our first plan over the first few weeks of the course is to get acquainted with C programming and what makes it a little bit different than the other programming environments that you may have experienced. Just as a quick note, this schedule link, that's the very top one, is probably the most common link that a lot of you are going to be clicking. So as you click on that, you'll jump over here to a plain old static HTML page that's under my user directory on CSE Labs. And you'll see over here that there are links to things like the slides. This video will be populated with the video I'm recording right now, as well as over here, there's a link to this week's lab. So if I clicked on that, you'd find instructions for what's involved in the lab, instructions on how to do it, some additional documentation, and as usual, most of the assignments will have a zip file, which is a collection of files all rolled into one and compressed that you can download to either your own computer or to a Unix machine that you plan to do work on. If you're not sure how to access a Unix machine, you may turn your attention up here to this environment tutorial, which gives you a whole raft of options. And by the end of the first lab, hopefully you'll have explored at least one of these so that you can get set up and make sure that you can code effectively for this course. During lecture, we'll have various kinds of conversations. I mean, we'll start out in most cases with me talking through some slides, giving you some information about stuff, updating you about logistics for the course. But inevitably, we're going to get to some exercise material. I'll ask some questions, put up some things, and ask, what do you think about this? Or how would I go about solving this? Or what's the right way to code something up to this? What's wrong with this code? Generally, I'll give you a few minutes to chat up your neighbor about those things, and after resuming discussion, I'll talk to 1 to 2 folks, possibly volunteers. Alternatively, I'll select victims from the first couple rows, which I'll refer to as the hot seats, and generally I'll favor a few folks in the hot seats to start out with for that stuff. If you don't want to be bothered, then sit near the back and don't raise your hand. It doesn't mean I don't think you're interested. It just means you don't want to have a real-time conversation during class. But it's good practice to think on your feet and at least offer answers, to try to give it your best guess. This is important because as you get out into the working world, you'll inevitably be in cases like that where you have to chime in. The boss calls and says, "You, what do you think?" And it's good practice then to have the wherewithal to just sort of look up and say, "Well, I think it's this. I'm not really sure." There'll be no harm in getting things wrong. In fact, in a lot of cases, we learn more. I learn more by things getting wrong. It usually illustrates where I've gone wrong in explaining something. To reward you for that kind of effort, you can earn some bonus engagement points there. The scheme exactly how this is working is best explained when you're actually in lecture, but by the end, if I've talked to you once or twice, then you'll come up to the front and bubble in a few spots on some sort of a sheet that's at the front. This isn't for everybody, just those that participate, but it's sort of worth your while because this is the only mechanism we'll really have to earn bonus credit. Again, if you miss lectures, don't worry about it. They'll be recorded and posted shortly thereafter. I know people like to make a habit of trying to figure out exactly how fast they can watch my videos and still retain some amount of information. People make stark claims about, oh, I can watch them at 4x speed and still retain things. I've never actually seen that happen, so we'll see. Maybe this will be the semester someone can prove it to me. In terms of out-of-class communication, I mentioned several spots. Piazza, as you would have asynchronous question. If you want to report something you feel was graded wrong, there'll be opportunities for that for Gradescope, where you submit assignments. So too, there'll be a spot to request regrades on projects and exam gradings. If you're going to go online for office hours, then that'll be via Discord. And certainly there'll be in-person communication during in-person office hours as well. The one thing that I didn't mention is email. And I guess this so too goes for direct messages on Discord, which most people use in a similar way. It's a little bit more personal to directly message or email people, and this should be restricted to certain kinds of business only. For example, if you can't make it to my office hours and you really want to see me, feel free to email me. And that goes for probably most of the teaching staff as well. If you take a shine to a certain TA and have a problem you think they'd be in a good position to assist you with, feel free to email them. Just bear in mind that TAs are generally not obligated to meet too often outside of office hours and have their own classes, projects, and lives to lead. So don't get too needy, as it were. It's totally fine to ask for help. Just don't be affronted if you can't say, if someone says, I can't meet until this time or I can't meet this week. I'm usually fairly available, so feel free to do so. That's a valid and legitimate reason to email me. I don't do Discord direct messages, so email me, certainly for that. If you have a personal emergency, please reach out to me directly. I'm your guy for that one. For instance, if you have a family member that falls ill or you have a funeral to attend, God forbid, if you are feeling sick yourself and aren't sure how to proceed, first of all, don't go in person to meet anyone. Instead, stay home, mail me, or mail me as soon as you can if you have some sort of an emergency like a car accident that precludes you from meeting an important or making it to an important course meeting. Please don't email me about missing lecture unless you were injured or something. If you're just like, oh, I have this thing, I'm mentoring another student and I couldn't make it because of a meeting. Totally cool. Don't bother about emailing me. Just watch the video or come by office hours and ask questions as you would need it. I fully expect everybody has busy lives, and so you'll miss lectures from time to time. In terms of reading, we have a rather brilliant textbook, Computer Systems: A Programmer's Perspective. It's in its 3rd edition. It's by a couple folks, Bryant and Halloran from Carnegie Mellon University. It's rather expensive, but an excellent text. Now, when I say expensive, I need to caveat this a little bit because buying a physical copy, which looks, I have a picture of it up over here, looks like this bugger over here, and has this, nice free website that doesn't actually have any of the textbook in it, but has cool supporting information like all the code that's in the textbook. But buying a physical copy of this thing will set you back like 140 bucks or something like that. The university has set up an inclusive textbook access program, in part along with the publisher of this, which I think is Pearson. So unless you take other action otherwise, you'll automatically, as you're enrolled in this course, be charged, I think it's like $32 or so, and be given access to that textbook. There'll be a link on our Canvas page, which is right here, this third-ish link, online textbook access. This is through a site called VitalSource. Now you may have to sort of sign in for an account for this thing or something like that, but clicking on this ostensibly will take you to that spot and allow you to access it for only $32. I think it expires after a month or so of the semester ending, so bear that in mind. If you are not so inclined to pay the $32 to get access to this, keep an eye out for an email that allows you to opt out of this program. I will be asking students about feedback on whether they liked this approach, this inclusive access program for textbooks later on in the semester. So if you have some gripes about it, let me know later on. There'll be a formal mechanism to do so. The other textbook that's associated with the course is the C Programming Language by Kernighan and Ritchie. Now this is sort of a classic text. It's not so much a textbook for classes, but more for as an introduction to the C programming language for folks who have programmed elsewhere, which should be most of you. One of the prerequisites for the course is that you've done at least 2 semesters of college level programming, likely in languages like Python or Java or C++ or something like that. Now this is an optional textbook. It's sort of a sign of honor to have a copy of it around. It looks sort of like what is it, Kernighan and Ritchie. C. I think it's oh yeah, this thing looks just so classically, 1970s or so. When I guess this is the Spanish language version of it. At any rate, they all have a big C on it here. I visited Korea recently and found one in the Korean public library that I went to, which was just great to see it there. At any rate, it's very terse, and so it isn't a tutorial on the C language for people who are new to programming. Instead, it presumes a fair amount of familiarity with programming concepts in general. And it makes a great reference after you've gotten acquainted with certain programming concepts, perhaps even concepts in C. But a lot of students find it a little bit lacking. It's certainly not going to be like a Ziante book that holds your hand through step-by-step processes and does really easy stuff for a long time there. It just says, here's what's in the language, now go use it. So that'll actually be our job for the first 3 weeks or so of the semesters. We'll be taking a crash course in C because it's the language that you really get to interact with the hardware at a more low level than other places like Python and Java and so forth. However, all that to say, if you're not so inclined to pick up a copy of this right now, then don't bother. Instead, you can leverage, again, those free web resources that are on our Canvas homepage down towards the bottom here. All of these are probably reasonably good C programming tutorials as you'd want to get a prize to that stuff. I want to say just a few words on academic integrity and motivation for the course. Within the syllabus, there's something called the Prime Directive, and you Trekkies out there might see a nod to that there. But for our course, the Prime Directive is as follows, and forgive me, I'm going to state this verbatim because I think it's important. Be able to explain your work, your own work rather, including homework code and exam solutions. The work you submit should be the product of your own effort and reflect your personal understanding. The reason that this is important in most college courses, particularly programming courses, is that you're training to solve problems for a living. And I really like this summary from a wonderful user named Bunder on Stack Overflow, who was talking about a response to sort of the level of college cheating that was detected. And that person had the following to say: I can say at my workplace, I've seen more than one fresh out, as in fresh out of college, who clearly hadn't made it through college without a significant assistance from Stack Overflow and other people's blogs. It could also be these days other people's GitHub accounts or help from their friends that sort of exceeds the acceptable level. None of these people lasted very long at the job. Perhaps knowing how to solve problems for yourself isn't necessary to get a college degree nowadays, but it's surprising how useful it can be in a career where you solve problems for a living. One sort of analogy I could make to this is, if you're training for any sort of physical activity, if you play a sport, you do long distance running, or if you are an instrumentalist or a singer, you play music, you know the value of practice. That practicing these things allows you to deliver when it comes time for the competition or the performance. And it's pretty obvious if you haven't practiced very much at the point that you get to one of those things that you sort of fall down. Eventually, you're going to be in a situation where you have to deliver. That you're training right now to be able to deliver that stuff, and we're here to help you. However, if you shuck that training and instead say, I'm just going to copy someone else's code, then this will end badly for you, first and foremost, because in all likelihood, if you copy someone else's code, I'll catch it. But that's not really the motivation behind that. Instead, it's like saying, oh, I'm supposed to do this 5-mile run to get ready for the race in a couple weeks. I don't feel like it. I'm just going to watch a video of someone running, and, that'll probably be good enough. I'll watch, how they step or something, and again. Everyone knows that's not going to build your heart and lungs quite right. So to the act of trying to figure out a program yourself, it starts to train your mind in such a way that you're ready to take on problems that are similar, although slightly twisted from what that original program is. Without that training over the course of these 4 years that you're invested in a college career, then you probably won't be actually ready for your real career. If you want to talk more philosophy on that stuff, please feel free to ping me. But I've dealt with a lot of student cheating in the past, and it's not actually very hard to catch these days because we have automated tools that make it relatively easy. So there's the carrot, as in being prepared for your job, and there's the stick, as in you'll probably get an F in the course if I catch you doing it. So bear both those things in mind, and when in doubt, just ask, is it okay to do this? And I'll be happy to explain. As for expectations for the course, there are a number of things that I can do. I can be entertaining. I can try to be, a wise guru and offer guidance. I can pepper you with information, and I'll try to challenge you at times with interesting programming problems. All of that's going to happen during lecture and office hours, through assignments and through exams. However, there is something that I cannot get you to do. I can't force you to pay attention. I can't actually force you to do your homework. I can punish you if you don't, but maybe you don't care too much. I can't get you to come to lecture or to watch videos, nor can I really get you to practice or learn anything for that matter. That all comes from within, and primarily this comes from caring. It feels a little bit weird, but if you care about this stuff, if you've started to cultivate a little bit of love for this mysterious beast, the computer, that's able to do so much for us, but needs so much attention and minding, then you'll start to care about how to talk to it and care about your own ability to do so. That caring is really the critical factor in just about any endeavor that you go into. If you care about the performance, you're going to practice your instrument for it. If you care about the race, you're going to practice running for it. And if you care about this course, you're going to invest some time in it. Caring leads to effort, effort leads to improvement, and constant improvement leads to success. It sounds kind of mundane and prosaic, but that's the way of the world, and I can attest to it because I was never that bright about stuff, but I worked my ass off at it, and here I am on the other side of things, trying to relate what little I know to all of you. So I expect that you'll care just a little bit. I don't care if it's a ton. I mean, clearly I'm a little bit weird because I care a lot. But on the other hand, if you cultivate an attitude of curiosity about this stuff and don't dismiss it outright, don't say, nobody programs in C, nobody programs in assembly, and engage instead and say, well, what if I did have to? What if I want to be able to? Then I think we'll get along smashingly. If you do those things and put in some effort, I am sure we're going to have a great time together, and I can't wait to see all of you come Wednesday. One final note, this can be a bit of a daunting course. If you've taken a year of college programming or some equivalent thereof, you may have some chops. You may feel skilled in some ways. However, once you get down to the lower level, there are a lot more challenges. And on top of that, we have just a crap ton of other challenges that we are dealing with at the moment. There is still an ongoing plague, last I checked, although it's somewhat subdued over what it has been before. And there are a lot of sort of open questions about things and challenges that our community is facing, both within computer science, within the Twin Cities area. This is a lot to get down for folks who are already overwhelmed because they're in college and trying to find their way. Don't let it get you down. And in particular, be kind to each other. Students are going to enter this course with a lot of different experiences. Some of them will have come through the UMN program and be acquainted with some of the facilities here. Others are going to be completely new to this environment. And so I encourage you all to get to know each other and try to prevent yourself from intimidating everyone else. It can be fun to sort of talk about, oh, I did this and oh, I did this and you know about this. That's actually, can feel good at the moment until you realize you might have made someone feel like I have no idea what the hell someone's talking about. And if you sense that, be gentle about it. Everyone is going to struggle at some point, whether it's in this class or going forwards in some computing endeavor and some life endeavor. I know this from great personal experience, having struggled everywhere. Get help from the staff, get help from each other, and support each other. Your peers will remember you, and they'll remember you one way or the other, whether you helped them move forward or you held them back in some way. So come to this class with an attitude, respect, learn from one another, and again, we'll have a great time together. All right, I can't wait to see all of you on Wednesday, and we'll have some fun then as we start to dive into what C coding and machine architecture looks like. Cheers to all of you. Happy Labor Day again, and I'll see you on Wednesday.
Greetings 2021ers, this is Professor Kaufman, and what follows is a brief demo of how online office hours will work. Your view of this will look just slightly different because you're logging in as users of this rather than staff members of our Discord 2021 Fall 22 guild or server, if you will, on Discord. I have a couple TA volunteers who have agreed to demonstrate a couple things about how office hours work. Usually what staff members will do is as they log into Discord, they'll check this office hours queue to see who's in line to get help during online office hours. And I see down here that Mohammed has a question about Lab 1 and Aiden has a question about Homework 1. This stage I can see also they're waiting appropriately in the office hour audio room. They're muted right now because they don't need to say anything, but I'm going to log in and say hi to them. Hey all, this is Professor Kaufman, and I have a look at the queue here. I see Mohammed has a question about Lab 1. Mohammed, what can I do for you?
Hello, I just got a quick question about the quiz. I'm just having a hard time when I make task quiz. I'm just not guessing something, so I'm not sure if I edited the file incorrectly or...
Yeah, okay, cool. I see. So at this point, I probably talk through a few things, so have you tried this and what you see here? Have you tried this and what you see here? If I can't figure out, verbally, as you explain what's happening, then we may go into a private room, which is listed down over here. Now, typically, staff members are going to try to verbally diagnose and triage what's happening, because oftentimes simple things like we can hear, I've heard it before, and so we'll have some suggestions to try while maybe we work with other students. But in the event that we need to see something, then we can have you share your screen, and to protect your code from being thefted from someone else, we will sometimes take you into a private room. But Discord is really nice because it allows both audio communication, as we just demonstrated, but also screen sharing. And for something like a lab, which is fair game for collaboration amongst all students, we can just talk about this completely open, including the code. So Mohammed, could you demonstrate sharing your screen on here? If I were doing it, I'd go down to the lower left here and click this video button. Let's see. And, oh, sorry, that's my camera. So there's my ugly mug. Wasn't exactly what I wanted. Let's see. So I'm forgetting here. I wanted to screen. Sorry, I meant to share the screen. And in most cases, it's best if you share your entire screen that's over here. Mohammed, could you demonstrate how what that'll look like for the students?
Yes, give 1 second. Yeah.
You can see Mohammed started sharing. Over here, there's a little live, and I can watch his stream over here, or alternatively in the video part over here, I can punch this thing, so I'll use the standard interface over here. And now I can see his screen and his version of this stuff over here. Normally this would be where Mohammed would show me some code, we'd talk through it, try and debug it, and then we'd be good to go on it, more or less. But since this is just a mock-up demo, I sort of thank Mohammed for your contribution. And the last part of this is, since I'm done with them, I'll mark over here some sort of a reaction to his queue request. And my favorite is a duck. There's a phenomenon known as duck debugging that we can talk about if you want. That marks him as over and done with, which brings me to Aiden. So Aiden, what's up with you? You said you need homework 1 stuff?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So we talk a little bit about what you're struggling with homework 1. You might tell me, I'm really just struggling to understand what this like binary representation thing is and how you do 2's complement, and we can talk about that a little bit, maybe chat a little bit about it. At the point that we need to talk about something private, I'll say, okay, Aiden, I need to take you into a private room for a moment because I need to see something that other students aren't necessarily supposed to see. At that point, staff members can just drag you over here into a private room. Now, if you were sharing your screen, and sometimes if you have like audio connections, it can get a little bit muffed here, so you may have to sort of try it again. Staff are aware of this and will work with you. But just to demonstrate, I'll come over here. I'll plop them down in private room 1. Professor Kaufman, is still in this office hours queue waiting room, but I'll come over here and join him. Hey, Aiden, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so now we can have a private conversation as Aiden would share his screen. Anyone over here in the office hours main room will not be able to see it, so no worries about copying code and so forth. I'm going to put you back. Oh, I should say these private rooms are locked, so only staff members can move students to and into them. You can always leave it and go back to the main room. And that's the case as well for this staff talk area up here, which is used for logistics stuff. I think that's all we need to do. Let's see over here. I'm going to move Aiden back in, and I'll also come back into the main room. Thank you to both of you for helping us. Mark finally here. Aiden has served. And as you would have further questions about how online office hours works, students who are watching this video, just let us know, and we'll be happy to offer you.